Welcome back to Steel Trenches. In the first part, I spoke about how China built patiently by absorbing dirty industries, mastering manufacturing processes, and how later moving into electric vehicles, renewables, and cleaner outcomes. The central idea was this: what we see today, EVs, clean energy, global competitiveness, is not the starting point of China's rise. It is the result of decisions taken decades earlier. In this second part, I want to move from factories to systems, from production to integration, and then turn to India carefully and honestly. Let me start with something that is obvious but rarely examined deeply. China had and still has a massive domestic market. This matters enormously. Before Chinese companies ever had to face global competition, they could produce at scale for home demand, iterate products, absorb failures, and drive costs down. This is particularly evident in sectors like steel. China did not become the world's largest steel producer by accident. Its vast domestic demand, housing, infrastructure, rail, power, industry created continuous, predictable offtake that allowed firms to experiment, standardize, improve quality, and lower costs long before exporting. Scale created learning. Learning created competitiveness. India also has a large population, but China converted domestic demand into an industrial flywheel far more effectively. That domestic market of China would not have worked without infrastructure. China didn't just build factories, it built the ability to connect them. High speed rails is the most visible example. Today, you can travel from Guangzhou to Shanghai nearly 1800 kilometers in roughly 6 to 8 hours by train. Once you account for export procedures and transfers, rail often becomes as fast as flying and far more predictable. This is not about convenience, it is about integration. When distances collapse, markets integrate, labor becomes mobile, supply chains tighten, regional disparities narrow. Infrastructure in China was not reactive, it was anticipatory, built ahead of demand, not after bottlenecks and congestions. This brings us to labor, and here sequencing matters. For a long time, China prioritized labor absorption over productivity. Jobs came first, efficiency came later. This is often misunderstood or criticized, but it worked as a stabilizing strategy. China tolerated inefficiency, informality, and low margins because employment mattered more than elegance. Only after labor had been absorbed did automation, robotics, and AI become central. Today, China's population is aging, factory wages have risen, and young workers are less willing to do repetitive industrial jobs. That is why automation and AI are now being pushed so aggressively. But that phase came after mass employment was created, not before. AI in China is practical, not poetic. In the West, AI is often discussed in visionary, almost abstract terms, curing diseases, transforming humanity. China's approach is more prosaic. AI is being deployed to make factories more efficient, ports faster, logistics smoother, and energy use more precise. Washing machines, cement, steel, apparel, the unglamorous backbone of industrial society. This is not because China lacks ambition. It is because China is defending its manufacturing base in the face of rising costs and shrinking labor. AI in China is about continuity, not disruption. India has diverged from China in a very material way. India, because of its strength in English, chose software, while China chose manufacturing. China, software is elegant, globally mobile, elite, and profitable. However, it is labor light. Manufacturing is messy, politically unrewarding, and difficult, but it absorbs people at scale. India, to its credit, has built islands of excellence in IT and software engineering, brilliant engineers, world class firms, global CEOs. However, China has built continents of competence in the form of technicians, supervisors, process engineers, factory managers who are embedded across the supply chains. This is not a comment on intelligence, it's a comment on structure. And this difference shows up how we measure success. In India, we speak glowingly about GST collections. Rising GST collections is taken as evidence of economic health. However, GST captures organized, capital-intensive activity, but it does not capture labor participation effectively. India's historic strength has been mass entrepreneurship. There was an old joke that India couldn't convert hockey penalty corners because Indians would set up a shop at every corner. It was a joke, but it carried truth. My own father began as a shopkeeper. That small shop was not just a livelihood, it was capital formation, skill building, and upward mobility. One has to ask whether increasing compliance complexity risks squeezing precisely this ecosystem, formalizing capital while marginalizing labor. China made a different early trade off: jobs first, taxes later. India often tries to tighten before it has fully built. There's another quiet but crucial difference. In China's industrial regions, women work in factories, and it is normal. In India, it is treated as exceptional and even inspirational. When women's work is normalized, economies expand. When it's exceptional, growth remains constrained. This is an economic issue. Finally, there's the issue of social cohesion. China has aggressively suppressed social fissures, ethnic, linguistic, regional. In India, they often get amplified across religion, language, caste, sometimes for short-term political gains. This is an economic observation, not a moral one. Social fissures impose hidden taxes on mobility, participation, investor capital, movement, and administrative focus. So, let me end carefully. China's rise is not a morality tale. It's an engineering project, vast, imperfect, and brutally effective. India should not copy China's political system. This is neither necessary nor desirable. But China's execution is a lesson. This is a lesson not of authoritarianism, it's a lesson of capacity, the ability to plan, the ability to build, and the ability to integrate markets, and the ability to absorb labor at scale before optimizing it. History does not reward those who argue the most. It rewards those who build. Thank you. Do subscribe to the channel. Do let me know your comments and share with me with ideas for future podcasts. Thank you so much. This is your channel, remember. Thank you.